Hi, well, first of all, welcome to the Edelblue Farm. Happy to have you guys here in my backyard. Today we're going to take the time and we're going to talk about the 3 P's of golf: your posture, your pivot, and your positioning. We're going to start off with the posture because it is the foundation for everything that you're going to be doing with the pivot and the positioning going forward. If you don't have good posture, you're most likely not going to have good pivot and good positioning in your golf swing. So the first part that we need to talk about is how you're going to grip the club. There are a lot of players that prefer to have a strong grip or a weak grip, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to talk about a neutral grip and what that means. So when we are gripping the club, I like to grip it in the palm, or I have a lifeline that kind of runs down the palm of my hand. So I put the club perfectly down that lifeline and I just wrap the fingers around. When I wrap the fingers around, you'll notice that there's this V created with the thumb and the pointer finger. That's going to actually point back at my trail shoulder. When it's pointing back at my trail shoulder, I know I'm doing it correctly. Same thing with this hand. Put it in the palm, wrap the fingers around, and there's another V, and that also is going to point back at that trail shoulder. Now, what do you do with the rest of these fingers on the club? There's a lot going on here, but there's 3 easy things that you can do. First is baseball grip. You're going to see a lot of junior golfers doing this. Their hands are pretty tiny compared to the size of the golf club that they're using, and it works pretty well. So if you see them doing it, don't necessarily change it. The other option is also an overlap, which is where you take the pinky and you put it over top of the indent between the pointer finger and the middle finger. And then finally the interlock, which is what you're going to see a lot of professionals, advanced players using, is the interlock, where they take that pinky and they weave it in between those fingers. Neither are wrong, but all are acceptable. We want that neutral grip so that we can get that club face as square as we possibly can through the swing. Next thing we got to talk about is how you set up your body. So when you're getting into that good setup, it's important that you find the center of your feet, the balls of your feet. If you're too far on the toes, you're not going to leave yourself room for the club to travel. If you get onto your heels, you're going to lose balance, you're going to fall backwards, you're probably not going to make contact with the ball. So we need to find our middle by rocking back and forth from toe to heel until we find it. And then we need to flex our knees a little bit. Not too much, just a little bit. The reasoning for that is when we're locked out, we are actually limiting our ability to rotate, move side to side, and to go up and down. Not good for golf. You do it in a lot of sports too, like soccer and basketball and hockey. You'll never see them moving around with unflexed knees. They're going to be ready to move in any direction possible. The next thing is establishing what to do with our arms. And the way that I like to establish this is by starting with our grip on the club, extending it out in front of us, bending our elbows slightly towards our sides, and then all we're going to do is a hip hinge. So it's not rounding our back, it's keeping it nice and flat and just going down. That gets us into a nice neutral posture. Our hands aren't too close to our bodies, our hands aren't super far away. And when we do that, what's really nice is that when we just do the hip hinge to that position, we should be able to drop the face of the club right behind the ball. If we don't, we're probably either too close or too far away from the ball. Now that you guys have those, we can talk a little bit more about alignment and ball position. My somewhat general rule of thumb is the shorter the club is, the more towards the middle of your stance that ball is going to start at. And then the longer the club is, the more that ball is going to move towards the inside of your lead foot. Why? Well, first of all, with a short club, our arc is smaller. And so the low point of the arc, if you think of it like a hula hoop, the bottom of the hula hoop is where the ball is right in the middle. Whereas with a driver, imagine this is a driver, we want to hit up on the ball. With an iron, we want to hit down on it, we want to compress it, we want to put spin on it so that we can stop it on the greens. Driver, we actually want to hit up on it so that we can get that top spin, we get nice carry, nice distance. So that ball needs to be closer to the inside of the left foot so that we can get our club to hit up on that ball. A nice way that I like to get into the setup is by putting my back foot down, put the club head behind the ball, put my feet together, and then do a step, step. So just to show you from this side, I have a 9-iron in my hand. So I'm gonna put that back foot down, club head behind the ball, feet together, step, step. If I were doing the same thing with a driver, I'd put that lead foot down, club head down, feet together, baby step with the lead foot, bigger step with the back foot. And now I'm ready to go. All right, and then the final piece of the posture part of the 3 Ps is alignment. And the reason why this is so important is because it's so very common for people to mess this up. Visually, it kind of is distracting when we feel like, especially for a right-handed golfer, we're aiming at the target, but truly we're actually aiming very far right. That's just kind of how our eyes work. So it's important that you know when you set up to the ball, the club face and the ball are pointing at my target, which is this little American flag right here, and our bodies are actually aligned left of the target. And it's going to be vice versa for a left-handed golfer. So I've got my good posture. My shoulders are going to be a little bit left of everything else, but everything is still left of the target. Get in that nice athletic posture, and you just make a nice swing and trust it. If I have everything lined up right at the target, that's when I'm in trouble, because I feel like I've aimed at the target right now, but if you can see my club face, it's actually pointing way over there. And so I'm probably either going to have to pull the club back on target, do a flip, or it's just going to be going right, most likely in the woods or a hazard, and you're not going to be happy with the result. So it's important that you understand what you can do, which is a pre-shot routine. This is coming back here, do your calculating, doing your alignment, making sure you choose proper targets, and then doing the step like we talked about in the ball position. So you walk into the ball, back foot down, face behind the ball, make sure that the face is pointing at the target, feet together, step, step, and that kind of naturally gets you into a body position that's parallel to your face and target line. And then you just make a nice smooth swing and trust it. Okay, so the second P that we have to talk about is the pivot. And this is basically what's going to fuel your energy for the golf swing. The first part of the P is your coil. So when you make a backswing, you're gonna feel your feet pushing into the ground, your hips turning, your torso winding up, and your arms getting nice and wound up as well. And what this does is creates kinetic energy, which is basically energy that is ready to be utilized to create movement. And so from the backswing, when you're ready to come down, you can unwind and you just let that energy go through the ball, which creates that ball jumping off of the club face, going far and going to the target. The second thing that we got to talk about is your lateral transfer of weight. So we start in setup with everything pretty neutral in the middle, maybe slightly left or slightly right, depending on what club it is. With a driver, we tend to be a little bit more back. With a lower iron, we tend to be a little bit more forward. So from that middle position at setup, we do our wind. And when you get to that coil, you're going to actually notice that a lot of your energy is going to be back on your right foot. And then as you unwind, you're going to feel that energy go back to your lead foot. My left foot is a right-handed golfer. And this helps to put even more kinetic energy into the ball and get it off the ground. And then finally, which is personally one of my favorite things to work on in the golf game, is tempo. Nobody repeats a swing more than one time. We cannot be consistent with our golf swings. So it's important that we find variables that we can attempt to keep consistent. And tempo is one of them. I actually have a customized track made by Tempo in Motion, where it's basically a drum beat, guitars, they make it really fun, but it moves to my cadence. And so when I work on tempo, I put that on the range and I hit balls to it. I even do my pre-shot routine to this beat. But tempo is really important because the more you can keep consistent with your body turn, with the club moving, the more consistent the face is going to be through impact, and the happier you're going to be hitting some golf shots. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit more into the backswing pivot. So for the backswing pivot, there are a couple of key things that you can look for to make sure that you have an efficient pivot. So when I go back, first thing that I immediately notice is that my weight transfers into that back right heel. And a lot of golf professionals will tell you that you want about 80% of your transferred energy to be in that back right heel. The second thing you're going to notice is that my left shoulder is pretty much pointing down at the ground in front of me, and it's going to be lower than my right shoulder. You're also going to notice that this knee is straightened now, and this knee is flexed. And when we get to this pivot, if I'm going that way, my back is going to be stretched and it's going to be facing the target. So if I stood in this direction, you can kind of see it a little bit more. You can see the torso winding up, left shoulder lower than right shoulder, this knee straightened, this knee bends, my back is to the target. All right, let's bring it on down. On the transition down, we got our backswing down. A lot of you will watch Tiger Woods swing and you will see he does what is a little baby squat. It's not dramatic by any means, but he does this little move to get ready to go to impact. And the reason that he does that is so that he can get on his left side and load so that he can come up and deliver the club properly into the ball. So in that transfer of energy, what we're going to see is this knee bending, this knee straightening in that little squat movement, because we're getting ready to load up onto our left side, remember? You're going to start to see the right shoulder actually catching up to the left now and going lower. You're going to see the head either stay pretty centered or lean back a little bit. And you're going to see, I'm going to start to put pressure on the inside of that trail foot. And then I'm just going to stand up. So, backswing, load into that squat. Knees are changing, torso's changing, pushing, standing up to a nice athletic finish.